Welcome back to Football Coach, episode 38. With a new coaching staff around us, we finally have some upgraded play calling ability, but we also have a synchronized system where we're getting that double bonus. We're getting the spread, the pass first, we're getting the 3-4, and the conservative zone with that all synced up, which is finally giving us the maximum possible on this difficulty level of 10. It can go up to, I think, 13 on lower difficulty levels, but we have a bonus of 10, the highest it'll ever get, and a bonus of 9 on defense, so we're 1 point away there. So we just need Brandon Knight to train up defense one more time. A 7 and a 7 is all that is necessary when we get those bonuses applied. One of the weak points coming with the new coaching staff is we have much smaller bonuses in terms of training progression in this particular area. So we're not going to see breakthroughs as often. We'll be lucky to get about 50%, and that's exactly what we get in the first training session is 50%. We are going to have to try again with our top quarterback because he did not get the breakthrough, so we're going to have to look again. And this was really the week of the quarterback. All 4 on the depth chart got an attempt, and the only breakthrough for them was our number 2 quarterback getting a +8 on evasion, where our other, the 4th one on the depth chart, got a +3 on evasion. He got 1 more point that he would have gotten otherwise. So nothing major on any of the quarterbacks. A couple D linemen, one of them getting a +7 to defensive IQ for redshirt freshman, who at 68 will be, I think, like last on the regular depth chart. So he will certainly get snaps this season as a young player. Another week of +3 on the breakthroughs. We get good speed bonus for our top running back, Gabriel Norman. So a +6 on that one. 82 overall he'll be this season. A little extra speed can allow him to break free, maybe get a little bit longer run here and there. We also have Sewell a second time, not a breakthrough. He's gained a total of 3 points on the quarterback IQ. We'll have to keep going, hoping to get that breakthrough. I don't want to do it all 4 weeks, but we will do it in summer 1, and if we get 1 point then we'll have to do summer 2. We really need that quarterback to be something special for us if we're going to get very many wins. And then we're looking at route running +7 on the true freshman wide receiver, who is easily good enough to be in the rotation right here, right now, but we'll play him 4 games and then redshirt him. And then we are at +6 on strength for our young running back, who is, I think, like 4th on the depth chart, or 3rd. He might be 3rd, actually. So I think he will be in the rotation. He won't play a ton of snaps, but he needed that extra strength to stay alive, stay on his feet when contact happens. 3rd time straight of getting 3 guys to have the breakthrough, so right on 50% so far. Still only 1 more point gain for Sewell, but at least he's now an 81 overall with his total of 4 quarterback IQ that he has gained. And then we've got a speed +5 for a true freshman wide receiver who's already a 71. So he is really good. He will obviously redshirt this season, but he'll be in the mix right away from next year. So definitely one of our best receivers in quite a few years, coming through as we've, obviously been down a little bit here in the last couple of years at that position. And then we have a strength +6 to a redshirt freshman offensive lineman who's already a 71, good enough to be in the mix. It also bumped him actually ahead of a couple of the older guys, so he'll be good enough to be in that first 8 and get those snaps consistently, and we could and should see him rise up the ranks to be a regular contributor, especially next season, but at least partial contributor this year. And then at cornerback, we've had a kind of a weaker recruiting group in the last couple of years there as well. So there's a number of guys with lower potential, but kind of that higher already or overall. A number of guys that are going to be graduating soon, and so there was a little bit of a void in that next class, and so I did go ahead and work on somebody who is both younger and not quite as highly developed, but with a big jump from, I think it was like a 64 to a 67 or a 65 to a 67, because of zone coverage +7, which of course we are going to be favoring zone coverage more often with the play calling now. So we want to make sure that everybody's got good zone coverage, and he had awful zone coverage, hence the healthy jump of a +7. With 4 out of 6 achieving a breakthrough, it was our best week, and it put us above that 50% threshold for the first and only time, and for overall for the 4 sessions. So all in all, I suppose not bad, right? 13 out of 24, but that's gonna be kind of the norm for a while, because we've really made a trade-off to get that play calling up and to get a little boost in recruiting, so maybe we can actually finally start winning some of those battles, those close battles that we are losing by small margins, but we keep losing them. The big downside to this, though, was 4 sessions all towards our starting quarterback and not 1 breakthrough, so he gets a total of just 5 points. 5 points to quarterback IQ, which brought him from an 80 to an 81. And those 5 points brought him from a 76 to an 81 in quarterback IQ. His arm strength 87, accuracy 89. So he could absolutely handle the ball fairly well. He's got, for a quarterback, okay speed, okay evasion. He does not have much strength. He does have some ball carrier vision, so he's very much not locked in to being a pocket quarterback, but his trait is as a gunslinger. So it's very much his arm. And he's a lot smarter this year than he was a year ago, because it was last year that we were training quarterback IQ as well. We did get 1 breakthrough that helped bring him up, but his numbers were so low. He's still not great. He's not smart for a quarterback, but he is not going to be making a ton of bad decisions, at least. Also invested some points into our redshirt freshman kicker, who did play a little bit last year as our punter. He played 3 games when one of our guys went down injured, but with the other 2 being seniors, he is going to be the guy. He's already got some leg strength, both in the punt and the kick. His weakest area was kick accuracy. Making those field goals would be important to us, and even though it's not his role, being that he's a redshirt freshman and he's going to be taking both roles next year, I wanted to get him a bit stronger in that area. So we did succeed in that. We got a +3 to his kick accuracy. As always, the objective, while we're still a 1-star prestige program, is to win 2 games. We're still at 50 on that coach opinion. Even though we won 3 games last year, it did not go up. But we are looking at 9 defensive interceptions over the season for $3 million. And the way things have gone of late, I could see that happening. We had 22 total turnovers a year ago, and I do think a majority of those were interceptions, more than the fumbles at least. So into, 13, 14 of them. And hold opponents to less than 47% third down conversions. That's actually a pretty low number, and that's $1.5 million. This is our guy also that we have just 1 year left. 1 year left until we have the potential for a new donor, and of course, fingers crossed that we can get something bigger, better than a bronze donor for the next one. But $4.5 million potential bonus is potentially quite helpful. As for recruiting, as the 4 sessions of the offseason have gone by, a lot of that, of course, is just scouting, and breaking through the first group of players that there's competition on, so that you can start formulating a list. And actually, we're doing really well with it this year. And really what it's come down to is the list I always begin with, which is the ones that actually have interest in our school, and we begin at 25% on the scouting. So I had 30 players after week 1. Actually, I had 40 players after week 1, because I then used the other 10 for sending to camp. So I evaluated 40 players right off the bat in week 1 and came back with about 15 of them that actually could play. And it really wasn't just the last 10. It was our list of 30 for the first time in 11 years. We actually did receive more than 2 to 3 guys in the list of ones that want to play for us that actually could play. And so we already are on a populated list from about 10 of those 13 that were on their way, that we were competitive, and we've got that early jump. And some of them, it wasn't just some B minuses and Bs like the 3 or so normally are from that first list. It was some A minuses, some B pluses, and some Bs. It was not just kind of the very, very bottom tail end of guys that don't matter, and we get an early jump and we get a head start and we're ahead of them, and then we end up only signing maybe one of those guys in the class. There's a legit shot that we'll end up wanting to take 5 or 6 of those guys. So great start to the recruiting process. We've got a real head start on things, and big and is now we get bigger feedback with this head coach. He's got ace pitches, and like 4 of them. He's got great pitches, 3 of those, where before we had 2 great pitches and 3 good pitches from a head coach that wasn't pitching particularly well. So we're getting much, much bigger bonuses than we ever have before, meaning recruiting. Like we might be able to take those close losses and this year actually turn them into close wins. And when you throw in the head start that we've got, and one more and here, 14 scouting reports weekly instead of 10. That plus 4 is going to it's already making a big difference on how rapidly I'm getting through. Wait, the word and is coming in one more time. And we are also not just getting your standard 5% bonus to scouting weekly. We're getting 8 to 10 with most of the guys. So he's so good at scouting that not only are we getting extra automatic 15%ers, but we're getting extra recruiting just from having them on the list. I've got a wide range of guys that are already above the 60% threshold through just 4 sessions, and we already know what sort of durability they have, which actually a lot of those in that first 10, the guys that want to play for us that do have some potential, don't have the durability very well. A lot of those guys are not very good on durability, so they still may not end up being signings for us, and they might just be hogging space on the list from better options. But I'm at least encouraged with how and where things are going and how rapidly we are getting guys above the 30 and 60% thresholds. It's going to be a different year with this one. Let's hope our head coach does not retire after literally just 1 season. Like, yay, I got back to head coaching jobs. I'm so happy. Now I can retire, right? Go out on a high after winning 3 games or 4 games. Hopefully he's, gets us 4 wins. That's the record that we're aiming for, right? We had a year of 1 win. We had 2 years of 2 wins. We had 2 years of 3 wins. It's time to make that 4. Continue the progression. Fingers crossed. Let's look at the roster and see how capable they will be before we take on Rutgers at home. And, Rutgers had a pretty good year last year. They ended up being a team that was down, and then they were suddenly up and very high for their standard. Okay, we're looking at an 80-80. That's what I talk about, like bouncing back. We're looking pretty good for the year to come. Pass protection, the offensive line, I did mention was going to be a problem, and is a problem. It's a 75, but we've got an 81 for quarterback play, 80 for rushing skill, 80 for run blocking, and 81 for receiver skill. Very balanced besides the pass protection. We'll focus more on quick passing, which makes the pass protection less of an issue anyway, as we are pass first. But if we can focus on the quick passing side of it, you release the ball quickly. And with okay quarterback IQ and decent arm strength and accuracy, you're going to connect. And with decent receivers, hopefully they can hang on to the ball. And then on the defensive side, everything is an 80 plus with pass rush of 82, run stopping of 82, man coverage of 86, and of course we're focusing more on zone coverage, but it's good too, and tackling in 82. Special teams, also 80 plus for everything. So we're looking at 80s for all of these stars, a couple of wide receivers, our running back, and our quarterback all coming in. So skill positions, impact players. On the defensive side, Pennin, let's hope he can stay healthy. He's got the F plus durability that's dropped off a couple levels from where it was over the last 2 years, and he definitely missed some time last year. And then we do have other really good players, though, beyond that, and we definitely have depth and quality. Starters by class, 37% are seniors, but that's only 11. That is only 11. That's not going to be too many to replace, where we have a lot of juniors at 15, and we have 2 sophomores and a freshman. And then players by class, 17 seniors that will graduate this year, 21 juniors, 15 sophomores, 32 freshmen. We do have a couple of junior college guys for the first time in a long time this year, and at least one of them will continue right on into the senior class, but I do think we'll have one guy to push back. So we'll have 17 this year, we'll have 20 for next year if we don't have anybody transfer out, that is, and then that'll make 16 in that next class, and we'll see if we end up taking any junior college guys this year. But let's go ahead and look at that roster and how we're looking. Juniors, no seniors at all at those 2 skill positions. At wide receiver, we are losing one in Bacon this year, but we are looking good for years to come. At wide receiver, we are looking good for tight end with Beverly and Rollins, a redshirt freshman, already a 70 to kind of come in after this group graduates. So I think tight end's going to be fine for years to come. Offensive line's going to be stronger next year than it is this year. It's a little bit of a down year, but it's not awful, right? We've already noted that. It's okay, and it's going to be better and stronger next year, and we've got plenty of guys to start filling gaps and or be cut if they don't keep up. So they'll be looking better. It's been hard to recruit for the last few years, and you're really only seeing one guy emerge as a top one. Ferguson will be pretty good. Just me, he lacks durability. How are we looking? Okay, Bond is great for that part. And then, of course, kicker, right? We got the 2 seniors this year. They've been now 4-year starters, but suddenly the guy behind them is as good, if not better, already. And he's just a freshman. He'll get 3 years as the main guy. So we're looking great for kicker. But, of course, that means we're also going to need to sign a backup this year. And that's always tricky. Really hard to find those kickers. D-line, well, we'll miss Pennin, but we won't miss the durability part. Behind him, though, yeah, we're going to need a breakthrough. Normally, we've seen big jumps, and Tally did it this year. He was, I think, a 70. He's now a 76. We got a 74 and 73 behind him that we can hope we'll get like an 80 and a 79-ish, about +6 for each of them. We tend to see that big jump for D linemen going into that senior year. And yeah, it's a little worrying about the state of the D-line right now. After it being fantastic a year ago, we're definitely in a little bit of a rebuilding period. And of course, this season is going to come down so much to the health of Pennin. How healthy can he be at the key points of the season when we need him? But linebacker looks good. Cornerback looks great for the future and the immediacy. Linebacker looks good, but not great. I mean, Bat's our best guy, but we'll have 2 guys at 80 plus next year, and we certainly have quality coming up the ranks as long as some of those guys develop appropriately. But Chaney as a 77 as a true freshman is phenomenal. Cornerback, looks excellent for years to come. Safety looks good. We got 281s that will graduate, but we've got youth behind them and already some quality at each stage. So very encouraging about the longevity of the secondary. Back on the talent for a second, our 80 on offense comes in ranked at 59th. It's definitely bouncing back. We were 73rd a year ago, but we were 34th the year prior. That was in 83. That was a big year. That was the coming together and culmination of a long time, and that was your senior quarterback who was an 86 overall, really helping to carry us. We've got a junior quarterback this year, so next year obviously continues to look like upward projection for the offense. Then the big question comes behind that, right? Can you replace the quarterback, which we weren't able to do, which is why we took that big step backwards to be a 78 last year and dropped to 73rd in the rankings. But at 59th, it's still, this is the third best we've ever been. Third best we've ever been. So we are absolutely, with this group, capable of doing something. We've had an 83 our best, an 81 our second best, and we've had two 80s, this one a little bit higher ranked. For defense, 47th in the rankings. It is the lowest we've been in 4 years. The last 3 years in a row we had 81, 81, 81. But we knew it was going to be a little bit of a rebuilding. We graduated quite a few guys, and so for a rebuilding year, we're great. We are great. We had never cracked the top 70 until that 3 years ago. So we are now 4 years in a row of an 80 plus defense consistently there. Pennon will be missed, but Pennon also is missing lots of time and has each and every year. He's always injured. In fact, let's take a look at Pennon and his history. He tends to take a lot of minor injuries though. So he played the 4 games in that first year. As we redshirted him, he was good enough to be in the mix immediately, but we only played the 4 games. He missed a couple games entirely as a redshirt freshman, and due to a major injury, but he's managed to play all 12 games the last 2 years. So he's picked up injuries each time, and it's lowered his quality, but it was minor, and he was still good enough to continue playing. And in terms of the growth, he was a 65 for a signing with a potential. Just not very good durability, but we took the chance. And I said before, a couple episodes back, or last episode, that this was before I was paying close attention to durability. And I would probably end up signing this guy anyway, just because of the high overall. We're talking D-line, right? This is defensive line. 65 is really high for D-line. That's why he was in the mix in year 1 as a 70 overall, already dropped to an A- potential and already dropped to a D durability. So he took a step backwards immediately, played 4 games as a 70 overall. He was that good. But then as a 74 redshirt freshman and the potential coming back up, it's been there all along. It's dropped to a B+ now because he's already into the 90s. He's still got potential. This is somebody I would see likely getting drafted. He could be a 92 as a linebacker, but that's okay. We'll keep him on the D-line where we need him. It sucks that the durability has taken a full grade drop over his career. Strength is a 92. Speed is pretty decent at a 79. Tackling 100. Block shedding 88, pursuit 89, and defensive IQ 91. He can even drop into coverage decently for a lineman. Looking at the schedule, things are actually kind of discouraging. It seems to be an up year for almost every single team on our calendar. Here's why. Rutgers is an exception. They're dropping off from where they were a year ago, but at 80, 78, we're lucky to be at home. That's a team that's a hair worse than a year ago, and a year ago they made a bowl game. Stanford looks fantastic with an 88 offense. That number 12 ranking for the preseason is probably not going to be enough. They are probably going to crack the top 5 and make the playoff, I would think. Arizona State, though, this is standard for them, right? It's a little bit better than where we are right now, and that's a 6-star prestige. Like, we should be able to crack 4 or 5-star prestige with the quality that we are rolling out most years right now, but it's been the coaching that's been lacking. UCLA, this is a down year for them. They have been regularly near the top 10 or 15, and they barely make the top 25 with an 83. But that's still too good for us, as California is right there as well. But Kansas, weakest team on the calendar, and we're away though, so 77-77. That might be a win, that might not be a win. Hawaii, the rivalry. Oh, we should be the favorites, +2 in every way. This is the key where we want Pittman healthy. We know we have him healthy for Rutgers. Please be healthy for Kansas and Hawaii. Arizona, massive up year for them. 83-81, that's the best we've seen them in a long time. Normally one, whether it's their offense or defense, is above 80. The other is usually about a 78 or 79. So they average about an 80 most years, where we are this year, but they are above that. At least we're at home. Utah, that's fairly typical for them, normally about an 82-80, so averaging about an 81, and we're on the road, so that won't be easy. And then Tulane, what the heck happened to them? It's a one-star program with an 81-81. We're at home. We are at home. But what in the world just happened to Tulane? They were like a 78-77 last year. And Washington State, on top of it, is an 82-81. It's rare for them to have more than 180 for them, or, barely cracking 80. 82-81's not, extreme or anything, but the most winnable games on our calendar, outside of Kansas and Hawaii being down, everybody's looking tough. USC, of course, is their typical 89-84. Tremendous. Have we seen an 89 on offense? Once or twice over the years is about it. Before the first game of every season, I spend a lot of time in the depth chart working on assignments for the course of the year, and a lot of it then goes untouched over the course of the season, barring what happens with red shirts and injuries. And those tend to be the only changes that I'll then make over the course of the season. But here is looking at just one position to show you the process on how I make these decisions. First and foremost, the depth chart. This is offensive line. We have 8 players in the rotation. I rarely change that, though I have certainly changed that before. But so we have 8 guys in the rotation for 5 offensive line positions. So you've got 3 guys rotating in to sub out the 5 starters. So your first 5 are really your most important, and we drop off pretty badly after the first 3. That's why this is a bit of a down year for us. But the first thing about the depth chart is absolute quality. Just who's the better player is going to be higher up the depth chart 99% of the time for us. Second thing I'm looking at, though, is the redshirt scenario, and being that we open the season with Rutgers, which is one of the 4 most winnable games that we have on the calendar, I'm more inclined to play the guys that are better in those games, meaning the ones that I want a redshirt. If they are good enough to be in the rotation, those 4 winnable games are the games that they're going to get. As odd as that is, usually the young guys, you only want to play them in games that matter less, as in the easier games. Well, that's exactly what we're doing. The easier games, the games we want to win, in our case, as a lower prestige program. But anyway, we have 2 of those on the offensive line. We've got a junior college transfer that we brought in, so a true junior who we do want a red shirt, especially this far down the depth chart, and a true freshman, both a 70 overall, both good enough to be numbers 7 and number 8. I'm going to end up kind of rotating them and getting 8 games out of them at that 7 slot, with this guy pretty much playing, well, this guy will play the entire season if he stays healthy, and that means this redshirt freshman, who's a bit further down, will have to play some. But if I can squeeze out 8 games between those 2, then I only have to squeeze out the last 4 from this guy if all were to stay healthy. That's a little bit unlikely, but, that's the hope. Fingers crossed, right? After the depth chart part and accounting for red shirts, then I'm looking at the sub situation, and the guys that are playing every down only are if they're at the top of the depth chart and have good durability. We want to get them out there as much as possible, prevent others from getting injured, and get the impact of having a bigger, better, stronger player, and literally our only 80-plus offensive line. We want to keep them out there every down. Then as you go down, you can see that only one guy also has been given workhorse, and that is because he too has high durability. That means all these guys in between do not have good durability. And that is going to be a big concern with the offensive line this year. Our season is going to be very dependent on the health of this offensive line, so I don't want to play them extra. I want to keep them fresh and keep them away from injury. So we will rotate. These guys at the bottom of the list will absolutely get on the field plenty. Then there's the preference. And the preference, well, that comes down to this assignment. And this is what I do before the season, and I don't change it as the season goes on. I determine their skill set based on, it gives you a descriptor right here. So even if you're not very familiar with the sport, you can find out interior lineman, your center, and the guards on either side of the center. Those guys, you need run blocking skills. I mean, you need them to do everything, right? But run blocking skills in particular, they open the pathway for your running back. Where tackles on the outside, it's those defensive ends and their pursuit and they're getting after a quarterback where you see a lot of sacks. And so you need good pass blockers. They still need to run block as well, just as the interior still needs to pass block. But your strongest pass blockers go on the tackles on the outside. So that means a starting line, and this is also important, is you're going to have 3 interior linemen and 2 tackle. My first 5 guys, we have 2 tackles and 3 interior linemen. They're going to play the most snaps, and they are going to line up as, this guy's your center, here's your 2 guards, and there's your 2 tackles. And it just so happens that our 2 tackles are strong pass blockers in the 80s, and our interior guys are strong run blockers. We got a 90, we got a 74 over his 63, and an 85 over his 64, meaning effectively 4 out of 5 are going to be fairly good at their jobs. Then the backups, you need a bit of a mix, right? We ultimately have 3 interior spots to back up and 2 tackle spots to back up, but we've got an interior guy to handle the inside trio. We got a tackle to back up the outside 2, and then somebody on auto to fill in wherever is needed. And you see how he's actually fairly balanced, where this one is a very good pass blocker, hence the tackle, and this one's a good run blocker, hence the interior. The last thing I'll take into account is promises, especially regarding snap count, and trying to make sure that they are high enough up the depth chart if necessary. They might get a slight bump, or if you got like 2 guys that are 72 and one has a promise, we'll put the one with the promise above the other. Maybe there's a 73 above them and we need them to get the snap count and they might be a little short down here. We'll bump them up 1 spot to make sure that the promise is kept. That's that last part that we take into account. But otherwise, that's how I prepare my lineup across the board. Running back's one of the only exceptions to that, where you have situational things to take into account, as in who's your short yardage guy, who's your third and long guy, who's your blocking, who's your fullback. So those matters are taken a little bit different, but then your depth chart really comes down to quality, which Norman is the starting running back from now on with his just an 82 overall. But I mean, that's already second best running back we've had at our program. He's only a redshirt sophomore. I'm excited, and remember, he wanted to win. I think it was like 5 wins or 4 wins, and we haven't been there yet. So I gave him the NIL. Half of our NIL money went to him last year. And hopefully we don't turn around and have him once again this year asking questions. But we do have a junior behind him, and we are not going to redshirt him. The drop-off is too severe. And while Norman has decent durability, he does not have great durability. So we do not want to do more than standard for him. Behind him, though, Connor is pretty good, and actually I bump him up to a workhorse, and really both of them. So they can play the snaps as necessary, but Norman's got to be the main guy. But Norman can't be overworked. He's not John D. He's not somebody who can play every down, and so we've got to be careful with that. But at the same time. He's our third down back and our short yardage back, where Connor is going to be the blocking fullback. I am going to go ahead and quick sim the game, but the matchup with Rutgers does have us favorites by 5.5 points. Our defense is going to have a moderate advantage over their offense, and our offense is going to be relatively level, though they should be able to get to our quarterback at least a little bit in the game. But like I said, we're focusing on the quick passing. That should help offset that and negate that a little bit. And yeah, fingers crossed. Be really good to get that first win on the board in week 1 like we did last season. And we do get that win on the board, 20-6. A good, very strong defensive performance to hold them to 2 field goals. And it looks like, doing the math anyway, that we probably had 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals of our own in this one to come away with the victory. Well done. So we do pick up 3 injuries, though, and that's going to be one of those concerns this season. All 3 minor, one of them just a week. 6 weeks on this one. That one's definitely going to hurt a little bit. Also, a second linebacker to go down. So 2 linebackers to go down. And, I mean, this guy's at the edge of the depth chart anyway, so it's going to change things up a little bit on what we do. And that is offensive lineman already. Looks like we were a little bit lucky, or a lot bit lucky in this game. We got outgained 328 to 399, but they had the only turnover, so we kept possession of the ball being one of the key factors, you would think. First downs was 17-23 in their favor. We had a couple big yardage plays, but we kept them to only 1 for the entire game, and I think that's one of the key factors that made this possible for us. We only ran 64 plays from scrimmage while they ran 84. It's like, what about this suggests that we had any business coming out on top? 11 drives each. There was nothing extra there. It's like, what the heck happened? 215 to 209 on the passing yards, only 113 to 190 on the rushing yards, though, so we really lagged behind. Rush per attempt, though, was very similar. We just didn't rush the ball as much. I suppose that does make sense. They are a rushing first offense where we are a pass first offense. They just got 10 extra plays, or 20 extra plays, and it was running plays that they were able to just keep drives going a little bit longer. And what did that have to do with? Third down efficiency right at 50%, and we're looking to keep that. Gosh, what was our objective for the year? We did really poor on third down. That's what ended a lot of drives early for us. The scoring was done by the third quarter for us, though, as we got a touchdown in the first and a touchdown in the second. And yes, it does look like the math very much matches, but they got a second quarter and a fourth quarter field goal, and that's it. Sewell was 21 of 34 with 223 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Norman, 17 carries, 77 yards. Did not put any of those into the end zone. Both of our touchdowns came through the air. Simpkins catching one of those, 6 catches for 80 yards. The impact plays, Donovan Post catching a 13-yard pass from Sewell. The other touchdown, let's see. Ooh, they had a turnover on downs, so that's a big one. Incomplete pass in the second quarter there, and then they made a field goal to close it. We made the field goal to get back up 10-3 in the third quarter. The field goal put us up by 10. They missed a 39-yard field goal. Ooh, Dunbar made a 46-yarder for us. Nice. And then there's the fumble. There's the turnover that got us possession back late in the third quarter on their own 19-yard line, setting up a short field that we did turn into the second and only other touchdown that in the game. So a short yardage touchdown there in the follow-up to that. 50 seconds later, third and goal, Simpkins 3-yard pass from Sewell. So we went for the short pass from 3 yards out instead of trying to run it. And so that option worked out for us. They made a 25-yard field goal with 6 minutes left in the game, and there's your second turnover on downs. with the incomplete pass deflected by Bailey, the cornerback, resulting in the incompletion, and that turnover on downs giving us the ball back with just 3 minutes left. So they got a field goal with 6 minutes left, but they got it back. Ended up, where did that happen? Our 6-yard line. So that happened on our 6-yard line, a 4th and goal. They had to go for it with 3 minutes down and could not get the completion. That would have cut it 20-13. We get the ball back. I don't know if that saw out the game, but that was very much the key moment. So back into the depth chart for just a second. This is the time where, now that we've got the first of those 4 key games, all those red shirt caliber guys need to get moved out of the lineup for the next period of time, and then any injuries that we've picked up need to be reassessed. McLeod will still probably be in the, well, at this point it looks like he'll very much still be in the lineup unless the linebackers are above a 68 and just missing, but I think McDaniel was a 69 for his base. Yeah, 69 for his base, so I doubt McLeod's going to get bumped out. He'll just get bumped down to below these 2 guys for the next, however long until he recovers. Ring is going to bump down, but he won't be out of the lineup either. McDaniel will, so we'll have to reassess offensive line linebackers, but then anywhere else, any true freshmen need to go sit for a while, and we'll save their games for Kansas, Hawaii, and towards the end of the season against Tulane. Our next 4 weeks all are expected to be pretty tough ones, with Arizona State probably the only winnable game of the 4. It's unlikely that we're going to get a win in the next 4, but if we can come out of this stretch at 2-3 overall, it'll be a fantastic start to the season, because at that point we're going to get a 3rd win somewhere, and would set us up to be in position to maybe actually get 4 this year. But it's a tough stretch, and most likely we'll be at 1-4 at the end of this stretch. But let's go ahead and give it a go. First up is Stanford. UCLA also looks very, very unwinnable. It's the other 2 where we might be able to squeak out a victory, especially with some better coaching this year. Maybe, just maybe, this is the beginning of a breakthrough. It's definitely not Stanford, though. 42-9, and we get the injuries, including Mason Pennon going down in the first of the 4-game stretch, but also it's a 4-week injury, meaning it's going to roll over into our Kansas game. So we are going to be missing Pennon for Kansas, but that means guaranteed he's healthy for the Hawaii game. I really would have liked to have him for both. I wouldn't have minded so much losing him for 3 weeks. It's going to really hurt to lose him for 4. It's a big risk, though, if we try to play him at 83 overall in the Kansas game, because he's still certainly capable. In fact, he's still going to be our best D lineman. You run the risk, right? This is considered a major injury. Major injuries can be played on, but have a risk to turn into severe injuries if done so. And with his durability in the F range, there's probably a high chance that something happens. It took him all of 2 games to get injured. You give him a 50-50 chance of getting injured if we play him against Kansas, meaning he's going to have to sit for the next 4 weeks. And then, of course, another injury for an offensive lineman. But at least the other one who got injured is coming back. This one is definitely lower down the depth chart, so I'll take that trade-off. Yeah, without Pennon, it's going to be a bit of a struggle here with the defensive line, as this is how things are looking. We were already doing the every down thing with Tally to keep the snap count down. 89% for number 2 on the depth chart, only 62% for the guy who was top of the depth chart, and you can see others have already played more than him. That might have happened earlier in the game to lower the snap count, but I already saw it. It was, I think, 64% after game 1, so it really didn't change much. It might have been a 4th quarter type injury. And the depth chart overview, you can see just how much quality we have at skill positions, but it's the linemen. that are struggling were good defensive skill positions as well, but the line, offense and defense, and that's my main recruiting place. But going back to some earlier seasons, we mentioned this a lot. You got 5 offensive line or 3 or 4 defensive linemen on the field at any given time, and so it's the most saturated position, and so it's the most recruited position. And while we've had some really good guys on both sides of the ball there on the line, it's always the hardest to recruit. And yes, I do find gems every once in a while, and I spend more time in my scouting of those 2 positions than anywhere else. I'm more active. I get on it very, very early, but it is what it is. And it's the most competitive, and we lose those battles year after year after year. And so we get what we get. And while we've had some gems come through, and we still have, Bond is a gem right now. He's very good. He's still young. Pennon is one of those guys who there was the trade-off. He had the potential, and he had good quality initially, and he's quite good. He's a 91. But he lacks durability, and keeping him on the field has been difficult. But sitting out games, he hasn't done that since his redshirt freshman year. So very unfortunate that he's going to now miss the next 4 weeks. The good thing is that 3 of those weeks are not very important. But 2 of those 3 that weren't very important were going to be amongst the maybe we can steal a game without him. The odds of that drop a lot, and the odds of beating Kansas are going to drop a lot too without him. So it's going to be a rough stretch. Definitely not the first time we have actually beaten them before, but Arizona State gets in the win column for the first time this season, and we come up just short. With Pennon, that's probably enough, right? We're 1 score, 1 less touchdown given up by our defense, and that's a win. That is how close we have come here, but 27-31 still drops us to 1-2. No new injuries is huge, and we do get a guy back healthy. Not that it was a major piece, but it is a piece nonetheless. That's going to do it for this episode. We start 1-2, but based on the schedule, based on the recent injuries, that's about where we should be right now. Arizona State was definitely the better team, but damn, close. We get 1 more close chance with, what is it, Arizona? No, California. California will be our other chance. UCLA, much too tough. Kansas on the road is going to be a lot tougher without Pennon. We will be missing him for that game. Let's hope that the next 2 games don't result in any additional injuries, so that we can be healthy for that one. But otherwise, hey, it's a good start to the season. It's a good start to recruiting. Nobody's signed on yet, but we're only a few weeks in. But we've revealed a lot of talented guys, and we're very much in the mix and could and should win a number of battles. That's a rarity. Some of that's down to having an excellent head coach as a recruiter. It's given us a shot. Let's just hope we can take advantage of it, do something with it, and bring in some guys that we wouldn't have brought in previous seasons. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.